It's Lilly May coming to you live from Las Vegas.
And this is LindaRose coming to you live from Maine.
I am super excited for today's episode. We have a lot of super fun things planned. I'm super excited to show you guys the interview for today also.
Yeah, and this interview was a lot of fun. And also make sure you stick for after the interview where we bring on Renée for our news topics, which is going to be a lot of, there's a lot of good ones that we came up with to talk about this week. So make sure you stay tuned for after the interview.
Absolutely. It was super fun to do the research for the news topics this week. And today we are going to be airing an interview we did with Liz Lieber. She is an amazing singer-songwriter, and she actually just recently released a new original. So make sure you guys go stream her music and follow her. But we're going to go ahead and show her interview now. Liz, thank you so much for coming on today and doing an interview with us.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going good. What about you?
I'm good. I'm really happy to be here.
Same. I'm so excited to get to talk with you some and get to have for our guests to get to know you some more. For our first question tonight, can you introduce yourself and talk to us about you, how you got started with music?
Yeah, so my name is Liz Lieber, and I'm a singer-songwriter based in New York City. And I've been doing music since I was pretty much born, but like officially I started taking piano lessons when I was like in first grade. I saw my brother taking them and I wanted to do them too, because that's how it works when you have an older sibling. So I started taking piano lessons, and then a couple of years later I started taking voice lessons, and then it was just kind of history from there. And ever since, it's been like my main passion and the main thing that occupies my brain for most of the time.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. I started playing piano around the same age too, so that's really cool.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that having I don't have an older sibling, but I have a lot of the older cousins that I hang out with, and a few of them are the reason why I do so many sports and I'm into so many things is because I saw them doing it and I wanted to do it so I could get like better than them at some point, because I'm a competitive person and that's how we are. And so I just think that's really cool that you got into it because you had a sibling that was doing it. And for our next question, I wanted to know if you had any musical inspirations, and if you do, have they influenced your style at all?
Yeah, so I would say so my parents played like a lot of like 70s music as well as like musical theater. They really played a whole array of music, but like mainly like Billy Joel, Elton John, Joni Mitchell, that kind of stuff. And I would say that's been like a really big part of my inspiration. Then I also really love like Sarah Bareilles, Ben Folds, like kind of pop singer songwriters of the last decade or two. So yeah, and I think the music I write now, those inspirations definitely come through. Sometimes I'll hear like a little bit of the Beatles in something that I write, or I'll hear a little bit of like Simon and Garfunkel, or maybe it'll be a little bit more like Carole King or Sarah Bareilles. So they kind of just they just come through everything that I do now, I think, usually when I don't realize it. But yeah.
Oh, wow, that is so cool. Those are some amazing musical inspirations. My mom played that type of music for me a ton when I was growing up, and I absolutely love their music so much.
That's awesome. Yeah, getting exposed and like raised on good music really, really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I was scrolling your TikTok and stuff earlier, and you have some of the most beautiful original music. I was wondering if you could talk to us some about the songs you write.
Sure, yeah. So I wrote like my first official original song in 2017. And that's a song, it's called My Love Glows in the Dark. It's actually that one's not out anywhere, but I play it on my live stream sometimes. But then I started writing more music in 2018 and 2019, and I then started putting them out on platforms. So I have like 4 songs out on Spotify and other platforms right now. And yeah, I've been writing for a long time, but then like in the last few years, I really started like, I guess, taking it more seriously, if you will, and really like finishing songs and finding inspiration for it.
Wow, that's amazing. Writing music is such a fun process. I started doing it around, I would say 3 years ago now, and it's a really cool process, and it's something that really helps you grow as a musician.
It is, and yeah, and it's a really nice way just to like relax too and like escape into a different world.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I know that when I write my music or I write my poetry, it's not only is it relaxing and like you said, it's just like a nice like relaxation. It's also a way that I express myself a lot.
Yeah.
And I know that another way that my grandmother always points out, the way that is literally exactly like me because my mind runs at like 100 miles per hour. She always says that when I'm writing my music, my creative process is literally at 100 miles per hour. And she always says it's just like my brain. And I wanted to know what your creative process is like when writing your music.
So I usually will write my lyrics and melody like together, like in sync with each other. Just because I find they feed each other, at least just with the way I write. I find like the way I want the word shapes to be is like fed sort of by the melody. And usually I'll actually write like, I'll like use gibberish at first when I'm writing the melody just to kind of know what word shapes I want throughout the song. And then that helps me inform what lyric I'm going to write. And then I usually figure out the chords after that. It really, and you know, it does vary sometimes. I think like the creative process can be like that. It can have irregularities and stuff, but if I really think about like most of the songs I've written, usually the lyric and melody have sort of just like informed each other back and forth, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I loved what you said too about how your creative process can differ each time because it's so true. And I love getting to hear some about how you write music. There's a lot of really cool advice too for how to get started with writing that I might want to try sometime because I've been experiencing some writer's block lately. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think something about that is like, rather like I always find like focusing on like what is really authentic to you. It might sound obvious, but it's really easy to forget and try to make a song just sound clever or like interesting or like sound trendy. But if you really write what's like true to you, there's going to be someone out there who resonates with it.
I love that so much. That's such an amazing piece of advice. You have some of the most beautiful lyrics too. And I was wondering, what are some of your favorite lyrics you've written?
I think one of my favorites is I feel weightless with waves under my toes, like I'm magic with stardust in my soul.
That's so cool.
And that's a lyric from one of my songs. I have a demo out of it. It's not like officially out on all platforms yet, but it's called Ocean of My Own, and I perform it a lot in my live streams as well. And it's a song I wrote about a place that I go when I'm overwhelmed because I get overstimulated sometimes. And so that particular lyric especially is like very, I think, defining of how I feel when I'm able to kind of find my own peace, sense of peace.
Absolutely. I love that lyric too. It's so pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love how like open when we're interviewing, I love how open some people can be about like getting anxiety or being overstimulated, like you said, because it's something that kind of goes hand in hand with mental health, which me and Lilly talk about is not like is kind of overlooked like a lot, and is not taken as seriously as it should. So when artists come on and talk about being overstimulated or having anxiety or anything like that, I think it's really awesome to be open about that stuff because I know a lot of people feel alone, because mental health is just really overlooked, which is really unfortunate and something that should be overlooked because it's really serious. And unfortunately, people only realize that when something happens to somebody with mental health, so with a mental health issue. So I love when people come on and they're so open about that because it makes people feel less alone. And that's just something that really stuck out to me when you were talking. So I just really appreciate that because mental health is something I've struggled with. And I'm sure everybody struggled with at some point. So it's just really awesome they pointed that out. I don't know why that just like made me really happy. But for our next question, I wanted to know if you could walk us through your process when learning covers and making arrangements.
So I would say that the first thing I'll say, it depends on the song. I'll preface with that. But I usually try not to listen to the original version too many times. And the reason why is because I almost like to pretend the song was written for me. Like a songwriter wrote it the day before and was like, here's a song, I want you to do it. It's not to say I don't get inspiration from the original versions of songs, but it helps me get into my own space within the song and interpret it in my own way, versus trying to just like kind of create a replica of something that has already been done. And I don't get super structured with the way I arrange things. I mean, a lot of times, you know, if you've seen my posts, a lot of times it's just me and my keys anyway, so it's pretty simple to begin with. But there'll be times where I'll just think through like, okay, I'll first try to think like, how do I connect with this song? Then what do I want to emote when out the keys to feel a little bit more like, I have my keyboard in front of me, so I'm like pressing keys here. Do I want to play a little like faster, a little bit more like syncopated? Do I want it to feel really simple, like and sparse? So these are just kind of things I do in the moment as I'm just practicing it. But I think the other thing is just like really making sure I'm authentically connecting with it. Because I think authenticity to me is like key, not just to music, but to life. So I think finding my authentic connection with each song is like, I would say, one of the key things to covering music.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I loved what you were saying about being authentic and making a song your own. I think it's a really important tip to keep in mind when you're making arrangements. And I actually do the exact same thing when I'm arranging a song or something, especially when I'm doing songs that were requests that are outside my comfort zone. So I really love getting to hear what you had to say about that.
Yeah, I think it's like everyone has their own process, but authenticity, I think, is universal. So that's
absolutely. What other tips do you have for people who are wanting to get started with singing?
I would say the first thing is like if you have the means to have a voice teacher, I like highly recommend it. If you're really intent on becoming a great singer, I recommend getting a voice teacher. And the reason why is because getting like good technique, even just basic technique, is really helpful later on when you can finally learn to like express fully when you're singing. Because to express fully, it's like you can't be overthinking while you're singing a song about like, okay, I'm going to do this riff here and I'm going to make sure to hit that note exactly, like, because then you're going to lose the soul of the song, right? So I think getting a voice teacher to start if you can't, going on YouTube or just finding other resources that can just help you get your footing. And then I think on sort of the flip side of that, I think I always say express and not impress. So like just like focus on expressing yourself when you're singing, not necessarily trying to impress other people and get them to like you or something. Because people smell that usually, in my opinion, versus like when you're just connecting to a song really authentically, it's like people can sense it. It's like in the air, you know?
Absolutely, yes. And I loved some of those tips you were giving. I know I've never taken a vocal lesson before, but I've been looking into finding a good vocal teacher. Do you have any tips for how to find a good one?
That's a good question. I've found them in different ways. If you have friends who are really good singers and they have voice teachers, like ask them who they're using. But if you've already done that, then I'd say also like if there's voice teachers on YouTube that will make content and will also teach a lot of the time. So sometimes if there's someone that you like on YouTube, see how much they cost and like reach out to them, because I know I got like a lesson from someone who I found through YouTube like a couple of years ago, and it like changed the game for my singing. And I kind of knew that she would be good because I found her on YouTube videos that I liked. So I think YouTube's a really good resource for that too.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I know I have been so nervous about trying to find one, so I'm going to definitely try that out.
Yeah, it's a good method. YouTube is really a really rich resource.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that this ties in great with our next question too, because social media has become such a big way that people connect, and how people like get recognized a lot too is like TikTok's a huge platform that people get recognized on, and people are really connected through social media, which is like, it's cool to see like these different communities just kind of being together. And I want to know what your experience has been like when growing on social media.
So it's kind of funny because I never really went on social media to like become viral or to become super well known or whatever. I did it because I had something I wanted to say or share, or sing, I should say. But I think, I just would basically, put out a video, or I'd live stream. Live streaming is actually how I really started doing a lot of this stuff on social media. I started by streaming during the pandemic, essentially. I was posting stuff before then too, like little pieces of video content, but streaming was what kind of got my chops to be at a place where I think I felt more confident to post even more content, just because the practice you get from live streaming every week is pretty good practice, just by the nature of performing every single week for years, but I think, I just like, there's songs that I feel like singing in the moment, and then I post it, and then it'll resonate with maybe 10 people or 5 million people, So I think what I'm trying to say is I try to just kind of stay focused on like my inner self and what I want to do and the intention that I have for each song that I put out. And I try not to like worry too much about the growth that's happening around me. Obviously, I'm not saying to ignore your audience, like that would not be good advice, but I'm just saying that like, you can feed off of them a bit, get their feedback, see like if they have requests, like maybe learn some of them if you resonate with them, but also, don't lose your sense of self that you had when you started.
Absolutely. I love that response. I know I started on YouTube at 11 and I started live streaming at the same time too during the pandemic. And live streaming has definitely helped me grow with being able to perform live and everything. So I love what you were saying about how live streaming has helped you grow. And I was wondering, what's a helpful piece of advice you've learned from your experiences with streaming?
I think a couple things. One is like finding a way to center yourself before you do a live stream is really important. Like, as you were saying, LindaRose, like mental health is really important. And I find like, live streaming and doing things on the internet in general can be very stimulating and sometimes overstimulating. So finding ways to ground yourself, and people have different ways of grounding themselves, whether it's doing a workout maybe a couple hours before their show, or if it's taking a nap or meditating. I think finding a way to ground yourself like before the performance is really good. Because otherwise, if like you're frazzled and stressed, that just like comes through. It just does. And people will be like, "Oh, you seem like stressed out today or tired." I've experienced this. I know from direct experience. So I think the first thing is grounding yourself, and then the second thing would be trying to be as present as you can with each song, like trying not to get too in your head about like, oh, did that note sound bad? Oh, is this like right? Oh, does this sound weird? And just like try to be as present as possible with the emotions of the song. And I think some of that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about like, you can like get your technique like solid, like with singing. It really helps later if you want to do live streaming or physical shows, whatever it is that you want to do, like just being able to like focus on the emotion of the song and be super present. So then you don't have all this like other stuff busy in your head, like kind of bothering you or bugging you.
Absolutely. Those are all amazing tips for live streaming. Especially what you were saying about how it's important that you ground yourself beforehand. It's really important not to be too nervous before you go on. And I loved what you were saying about that.
Yeah. And I think one more thing I would say is if you do like request-based streams, you don't have to sing every song that people request from you, and you don't have to learn every song that people want you to learn. It's really good to be discerning as an artist. It doesn't mean you have to be a prude about it, but like sometimes you just know in your heart the song is not for you. Either you don't resonate with it, doesn't fit your voice well. You could try to make it fit your voice well, but still might not fit your voice well. Like all these things matter. And I think sometimes when we're live streaming and we're taking requests, we feel like we have to like kind of please everyone. That's not the case. You don't have to please everyone. You can be an artist and be discerning and choose the songs that resonate with you and learn those or, sing those.
Absolutely. Balancing is so important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I do agree with that. Balance is something I struggle with quite a lot because I have such a huge social life at my school, and I do sports and I do clubs, and then I have the show, and then I have other things. I have photography gigs that I have to go do, and balance has been super hard for me, but I also, once I find that balance, it's so unstressful. So I do like that you mentioned balance because it is really, really important that you find that balance. So that's also not too stressed. That's not too stressful for you, and if it does get too stressful, how to make it so it's not that stressful. And I just think that's really important, and I'm really happy you brought that up. And for our next question, our big Orchid Times message is to kind of put women empowerment out because women are looked down on quite a lot. And I want to know if you've run into any roadblocks as a woman in the music industry, and if you have, how you kind of overcame those and dealt with those issues.
So personally, I'm very lucky in the sense that the people I've worked with in the industry thus far have been really professional and great to work with. I will say, like, just being a woman in music in general can be tough. Like I've gone to certain music stores and stuff where the employees there just like clearly, because I'm like a 5'3", like woman. Like I think they maybe assumed I didn't know what I was doing, so they were prioritizing like other customers. Like it just was really obvious. So I think things like that can sometimes happen. They can be frustrating. But yeah, luckily I have not run into roadblocks, but I do know of people who have run into roadblocks. So like what I would say about that is really trust your gut instincts. Like, you know, if like a producer reaches out to you and you just get like weird vibes from them, like you can't put your finger on it, but you just get kind of like heebie-jeebies, trust that. even if they're like maybe a big name or something, like trust your guts. Because like sometimes there's a reason we have gut instincts as women, you know.
Absolutely. It's so important to trust yourself. And I'm so glad that you haven't run into much troubles with being a woman in the music industry. And thank you so much for talking to us some about what you have experienced.
Sure.
You've accomplished so much in your music career so far, and I wanted to know, what goals do you have for yourself in the future?
So one thing I really hope to do is create like a full-length album. I think I want it to be like a mix of covers and originals, because covers are sort of how a lot of people know me, and usually that kind of brings them in and they want to hear my originals. So I think maybe doing like a blend of the two could be really interesting. Or I might want to do like a cover album and an album of originals. I'm not really sure yet, but I think putting out more like albums or EPs would be really rewarding and give something for people to hold on to.
That is so cool. I'm super excited to listen to your album whenever you release it. I know I'm currently working on doing an EP, and it's been such a big process and it's a lot of work, but I'm really excited to listen to it when it comes out.
Yeah, it's like the most grueling process, but the most rewarding.
Absolutely.
I love getting to hear, like, because I write songs as like a coping skill for me, but I'm not really in the music industry. So having a co-host that's in the music industry, and then having people come on and talking about them being in the music industry, like talking about EPs and albums and stuff and coming out with those, hearing that processing is so cool to me, because I really don't know a lot about it, and a lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So it's just really cool to hear that process and kind of know what goes on behind the scenes. And unfortunately, our interview is coming to an end, which I'm so sad about, because your answers and like just hearing your processing is really, really cool. And I've been scrolling on your social medias, and it's just so fun to watch you. You have just a really great like personality that just like makes people want to watch you, and I'm one of those people. And I just love your personality on camera. And I just want to know how people can support you and your music, and kind of where they can find you.
So you can follow me at LizRose Sings on all platforms. I think it says on my little title here, I put at LizRose Sings. So you can follow me. It's facebook.com/LizRose Sings, Instagram.com LizRose Sings, and then LizRose Sings on TikTok. And if you want to find my music, you can search my name, Liz Lieber, on Spotify or wherever you listen. And you can also, if you want like physical files of the music, some people like to download actual files, you can go to my Bandcamp site, which is lizlieber.bandcamp.com.
We have all of Liz's links and everything below in the description, so make sure to stream her music and follow her on all of her platforms. Thank you so much, Liz, for coming on today. I've loved getting to talk with you and get to know you some.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Liz's interview was so cool, and I was so excited to get to talk with her some. She is an amazing singer. And I've watched quite a few of her live streams on TikTok, and I know that she's planning on doing a live stream later today on Facebook at 8 p.m. EST, so make sure you guys tune in there. I'm going to be there too and watching, and I'm so excited for it. I think that Linda might have had a glitch and it booted her out, but we will go ahead and welcome Renee on to get started on the news segment.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. I always love getting to have you on to do these news segments. Hey, Linda.
Hey. Honestly, can't even tell you what happened. I don't know.
Tech gremlins.
I came on and it just decided that it didn't want me on. So.
Oh no. Well, we're getting started with the news segment. So for our first topic tonight, we wanted to take a second to talk about what Canada just recently did last week. The House of Commons unanimously passed a motion declaring the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirited people a Canada-wide emergency. This motion was introduced by Leah Gazin, who proposed the motion right before Red Dress Day, a day meant to honor the memory of murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirited people across Canada. The first immediate action that the Canadian government is planning on taking is to create an alert system called the Red Dress Alert System. And this is going to help notify people when an Indigenous woman goes missing. And I'm so glad to see that other countries are taking this issue seriously and starting to take some action to combat it. And let's hope that other countries start taking notice, because this is such an important issue and it needs to be recognized more.
Absolutely. I was really, really happy when I read the article that I read with this, because the fact that another country is paying attention to it, and because Canada is such is like a bigger-ish country. I'm hopeful that other countries will see the change that they're making and decide to make one too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the red dress alert system is going to be sort of a synonymous to what we deal here with in America, which is called the Amber Alert system. So basically in Canada now that they're going to activate this system, anytime an Indigenous girl, woman, or two-spirited person goes missing, or there's suspected violence against that person, everybody is the general public is going to get issued an alert so that everybody can help to find and track down and secure the safety of that missing person or the individual that is in danger. And one of the things that's going on is Indigenous peoples in Canada and elsewhere are saying, hey, this is an actual pandemic of domestic violence, murder against Indigenous peoples on a scale that is not suffered by other demographics. There is systemic and foundational history of violence against these peoples who have been underrepresented. This is a minority class. Very many things have been taken away from them, their culture, their economic possibilities, their land. So hopefully we are all familiar with that history. Canada goes through a lot of the same things that we go through here with Indigenous peoples after colonialism. Of course, they were treated awfully and everything taken away from them and families broken. And that caused a lot of dysfunction within that demographic that was foisted upon them by other people. So they're calling this a genocide against Indigenous peoples. And so that's why we need extra attention when we are dealing with people from these cultures. They are absolutely, they're voiceless in a lot of cases because remember, everything has been taken away from them. So hopefully this is a step forward. It's not anywhere near enough. And I know a lot of activists are coming out and representatives from Indigenous cultures saying there is no way that this is going to be enough, but at least we're starting to get to some kind of a clarity about some action plan that we can do to help keep Indigenous individuals safer than they already have been.
Absolutely. There definitely needs to be a lot more steps taken, and I hope to see that a lot more in the future. For our next news topic, we wanted to talk some about what happened to Glenique Frank when she participated in a marathon. LindaRose, did you want to open this one?
Sure. So Glenique Frank was a trans marathoner, or is a trans marathoner, and she offered to hand back her participation trophy after some people were mad that she participated in a women's 300-meter race. I think it was 300 meters, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that this is something that really needs to be talked more about between the people that participate in these events, and something that there should be some type of like conference or something just to get everybody's full opinion on it, because me talking about it, I feel bad giving my opinion on it because I don't participate in this, so I don't know what the women and other participants feel about it. And personally, I think that having a trans marathoner in it is fair-ish, and that's just my opinion. And the fact that she's offering to give her trophy back, I think, is so sweet of her, but I don't think it's needed. She participated in she participated in the race, and she deserves her trophy just as much as everybody else did.
Absolutely, and she's being bullied super heavily right now by the media too. I know that a two-time Olympic marathoner, I think I'm pronouncing her name right, it's Mara Yamuchi, made a hateful retweet about Clinique, and it was just so sad. And I've seen a lot of other stuff too, and this bullying and stuff needs to stop. She shouldn't have to give back her participation trophy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that Clinique Frank said is that she said going forward, she will mark down either male or other. But right now, she said she didn't feel comfortable putting herself down as quote unquote other because she said people are not others. So another thing that's coming up is how are we classifying individuals? How are we classifying who's human, who's not human? And she really wanted to take a stand and say, she said, since the time I was 5, I've known I was in the wrong body. I am a female. This is the first of, I think, 18 or 19 races that she has planned in the future. And she said going forward, she will change that. She offered to give back the trophy. But I think we can all agree on one thing, which is that no matter what we believe in any sort of circumstance, we do not need to descend into threats, into doxing, into name calling, insults. That kind of thing just sets us back. So let's try to have healthy dialogues about what we think we can do going forward. And I think she's very open to that. And she said that she wants to have these dialogues, and she was trying to start a dialogue about that. And she is continuing her transitional journey. So as things change, and she also said, she responded to the bullies saying, I actually am taking hormone treatments. So my testosterone is very weakened right now. And I don't think I'm really at an unfair advantage. So we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, let's just try to all be respectful and honor everybody who's involved.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, and like I said earlier, her offering to give back her participation trophy is really kind of her, but at the same time, she does not need to give it back at all. She participated in the race, and she deserves that trophy as much as every other participant that participated.
Right,
Absolutely right.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. For our last news topic tonight, we want to talk some about what's going on in Utah with what a judge decided. Renee, did you want to lead on this one?
Yeah, so in Utah, one day before it was supposed to pass this law, a judge struck down a bill that was going to prohibit all operations of all abortion clinics in the whole state of Utah starting the first of next year. And abortion clinics such as Planned Parenthood and others rose up and said, hey, where is the science about how outpatient abortions are any more dangerous or any more less than hospitals? Because Utah was saying that during the same time, hospitals could do this procedure up to 18 months of pregnancy. So why is it that abortion clinics, which often serve more of the underprivileged population, people who are economically disadvantaged, and they often are catering to a population that doesn't have access to great healthcare anyways, they said, why are we removing this type of healthcare from this demographic? And luckily, a judge in Utah totally agreed. And so now abortion clinics are not going to be unfairly treated or treated any differently than hospitals moving forward.
I was so glad to read this article, especially with what's going on with all of the laws and bills being proposed and passed all around the U.S. right now. So I think it's really great that judge decided on that, so people in Utah have more options.
Yeah, and if you guys have been on our show watching this season, something that's come up a lot and something that came up last season too is abortion. And if you look at the laws and stuff that are coming up, we've talked about it so much. And when I talk about it, people pointed out that I get irritated because it irritates me that if you look, most of the people that are trying to pass these laws and are passing these laws are males.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just gonna flat out say it. I am a woman. All of us here are women. If you are a male, you do not get to decide what I do with my body. Okay? If me or some other girl out there gets sexually assaulted or raped, they should not have to live with that baby. So,
Right.
if you are a male, stay out of it and let us women decide because it's our bodies. We're the one that has to go through it. Thank you. I rest my case.
Absolutely.
Yes, and also I did say 18 months by accident, but of course I meant 18 weeks. There is no pregnancy that would last up to 18 months, so I apologize for that error.
Oh, it's fine. I've mispronounced so much stuff on these news segments. Mistakes happen.
Oh, I have to. The amount of if you watch over the unedited, if anybody here ever has seen an unedited interview, the amount of times I stutter in our first few interviews is insane. I could not get a single word out in our first interview because I was so nervous.
Yeah, it's funny. Nobody is totally flawless. I'm glad when these things happen. And somebody caught it and said, "Hey, did she say 18 months? Abortion up to 18 months?" I said, "No, I don't think so."
Thank you so much, Renee, for coming on today and doing the
Thank you
news
so
topic.
much, guys.
We love having you on, and thank you so much again. Thank you guys all so much for being here and for watching and supporting us. Next week, we're going to be airing our last interview for this season before our finale. So we are going to be airing an interview we did with Peyton. She's an amazing writer and author and poet, and she's also won a Global Young Prodigy Award. So that's awesome, and I'm really excited to air it.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please come in next week. The interview that we filmed, I think it may be my favorite interview that we've ever filmed just because she is so insanely amazing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.
We are also going to, at the second week to the end of this month, I don't know the date, but we're going to be doing our movie discussion on the Miss Americana documentary. I'm going to be rewatching it soon, so if you guys want to watch it with us, we have the link down below in the description. I hope everybody has a great rest of the day, and see you guys next Wednesday.